Hi, welcome to Inside the History. Today we're on a location outside from the normal Battleship Cove videoing. We're at our sister location here at the USS Salem, and we're inside the gyro IC control room here in the lower part of the Citadel. And we're going to give you an insight into the three different types due to class size, as well as related to year and design as it came in. Salem is the inside the middle. She's in the late 40s, early 50s design phase, so it's become apparent that this needs to be protected and a lot more important. So this room is a lot bigger, has a lot more better layout and air conditioning control. So we're going to look into this comparative, and we'll have from the Kennedy and the Massachusetts as well. And helping me with that is going to be Paul Scalabroni. This is his toy, as you could say, for us mature naval type that we like to specialize in these fields, and Paul is quite the expert on it. So I'm going to turn this over to Paul, and he'll give you some insight into a lot of the different things here, as well as Dr. Scholes. He'll actually has more insight into the ship as a whole, as a class. So we're going to do a brain drain right in here into this video to give you a lot of information. So Paul, John?
Why don't we start with this piece of equipment, which is the ship's forward main gyro compass. This is the central tool to find the ship's course and bearing to any other targets, etc. This basically is stabilized gyro compass, a spinning gyro, and it sits in a big bath of mercury in order to damp out any vibrations. The information from this is sent to many gyro repeaters all over the ship, and you'll see these compass dials essentially on the bridge, but in many other locations. Very important to know what the ship's course is and what the bearing is to anything that you might be interested in. This is also duplicated in an after main gyro room, and we are adjacent to the Combat Information Center, so we are underneath the ship's main armor in the best protected part of the ship. This is a very valuable instrument.
And Massachusetts only had one. And
we have two.
We have two.
Yeah, we have a forward and an aft.
We always learn. And Kennedy has one. So there's a difference in size and reliability, so we had backups. The primary one we always see is up forward. The one back aft we don't always get to see. So it's, but on here, and the difference here too is the deck is not raised. So there's cables coming up through and down and in, so we don't have a cable raceway underneath the deck like we do on this. Yeah, false deck terminology. So it's interesting, and it's a bit of a workshop as well. So what else we got here, Paul?
Well, basically, touching on what Dr. Scholes just said, this room is a culmination of a lot of different systems that on the Battleship we have are all separate compartments. You have your gyro room here, which is the forward gyro. You have internal communications room, and you also have your telephone exchange in here for all the telephones on the ship. On our ship, they're all separate compartments. We have the gyro, we have our IC room, and we have our telephone exchange room. If you were to cross-section it all, it's about the same size space-wise. They just put it all into one area, plus it's adjacent to CIC, where ours is actually one deck down and spread in different parts of the ship. The equipment's mostly the same. It's literally the same exact gyro we use, one forward, one aft for redundancy. Where the Salem differs to our ship is you have a forward IC and you have an aft IC. We only have one IC room. We only have one telephone exchange. Yours is a lot more modern than ours. Ours on the Battleship, unfortunately, is completely gone. We don't have anything there anymore. It's just an empty compartment. Hopefully that can change in the future, but your system is remarkably intact, and it's actually probably one of the few like that left in the country that could be made to be workable. Is it practical? Probably not, but it's still interesting to see how old telephones worked when it was all actually mechanically dialed, rotary encoded.
We actually did have a number of the phones working at one time on the ship.
And even though your ship was built later, a lot of the technology in here is still the same, like your 1MC stack. 1MC on Navy ships is your general announcing system, but it also handles your alarms, your general alarm, your chemical alarm, your collision alarm. And that's what this cabinet does here. There's actually generators in the top. If you you open it, these are your two signal generators that make all your tones for those alarms. The rest of this is all just switch gear to distribute the signal all over the ships, and it takes its input and puts it out to the two amplifier stacks here, and that goes to all the speakers you'd see around the ship when there's a general announcing that the whole crew needs to hear. This is a system that would do it. There's other systems on the ship that are for announcing. You'll notice them around here, these boxes, but they're more localized. They're for specific spots of the ship. CIC to the bridge, bridge to a plot room. It's not for the whole ship to hear. It's when you need more secure communications that not everybody needs to listen to. And that's a whole separate system that's run from usually the plotting rooms. This one is just for basically all the ears on the ship to hear if there's an emergency. This is what would be causing those to go out. And then we'll head over to the phone exchange next. All right, so we're here in the forward half of the IC room in the Salem, and this is their telephone exchange. The Battleship would have had a system similar to this, maybe a little less advanced because this one was kind of the newer version of it, but it's still anywhere on the ship where there's a telephone had to ring through this exchange. And basically what would happen is it's all mechanical. You'd get the signal in through all your relays. These are all your phone tie downs for all over the ship. And then anyone that dials a phone has to go through a finder on this side. And on these, basically this whole mechanism goes up and down, rotates, and every number you dial gets locked in. And then that's how you actually dial your number. Call goes out. When you're done, it releases, the device resets, and then you have the line free again. But all mechanical system, everything's done by relays, electromagnets. There's slight electronics in the form of capacitors, resistors, things like that, but nothing like you would see today. There's no integrated circuitry. This was all a mechanical system, and it's kind of a work of art to see these in operation. There's not very many of these left running in the world for obvious reasons. This thing is a nightmare to maintain, keep lubricated, keep it operational. All the wiring in here, there's probably miles of wiring in this system alone, just in this room, and it's kind of a beast to keep going. This one is relatively complete, so one day it would be kind of nice to see it operate, but we'd have to go through the manuals and really, really do a deep dive on this to get it back to functionality again, because there's a lot to these kind of systems. That's why they don't use them anymore, obviously, because electronics are a lot more efficient and better. So this would be one of the dialing units or finders, and the way the system has basically worked is you have the part down here that would rotate for each number, and then it moves up a position every time it wants to encode a number. So this would, say you wanted 1, it would move one spot in, then move up, then you dial 9, then it would move up 6, move up 7, and every time you dial the number, it moves one more position up, then your number's dialed in, and when the call's complete, it resets back down to the base position, and then you're ready to dial again.
All right, so a more part of the control, Paul, is different aspects of information coming in, and this is just general atmospheric and ship information that's being fed in. So what do we have here?
This is what's called the ship's pit log system. Basically, it's the ship's speedometer. Basically tells you how fast you're going, and you have your indication of knots here, and this system distributes that to all these repeaters all over the ship. So you get your main signal here from the pit sword that's actually in the hull that takes the water pressure, which is what this guy does, converts that to a signal that these guys can interpret, and then it goes through a whole synchro amplifier system and distributes it all over the ship. This system on the Massachusetts, we actually have functioning. We have a computer that basically lies to it and takes the action of the pit sword, feeds the signal in, and we can actually tell the ship we're going 10 knots, and all the dials on the ship will go to 10 knots. And then we can make it go forward, we can make it go down, and we can also adjust our gyro compasses because we have a system for that, so we can actually make all our gyro repeaters also move. So it's kind of a cool way to make the displays interactive as you see it. We don't have it functioning right now, but it is operable. We had a volunteer go through that whole system and make it so it could run.
And tie it into the DRT, so that way we could do plot. And
we haven't tied it into that yet. That's on
but that, I mean, it's within the means.
And that would all be done through the plot room. But the system's basically, it's your ship's speedometer. It tells you how fast you're going.
You might be noticing all of these bags and tags all over these electrical boards. What are they? Well, these are actually placed here when the ship was put into mothballs in 1959, and they're still original from that time. Every piece of equipment that was mothballed was checked to make sure that it was functioning correctly, and then Any parts that needed to be moved someplace else were stored. A tag would say where they were located in the ship so they could be brought back. If there was a part that needed to be removed but needed to be immediately available, for example, in these bags, are fuses.
Yep.
So the
Old-time
fuses were removed from the switches here and the electrical equipment, placed in these bags. To reactivate, all you had to do is read the tag, open up the panel, put the fuses back where they belong, and you should have a functioning system even after all of those years.
It probably still works great.
And we have actually reactivated some of the equipment on this ship and turned it on, and it worked perfectly.
Awesome. And you got red tags as well. Danger tags the early years, and for isolating and locking down the system, because other systems could be interconnected with it, and you don't want to activate something and shock somebody else. So you would actually have a red tag on there that would have to be cleared through Damage Control Central and so forth. That way nobody gets shocked, and that would be probably during the decommissioning process, because you have multiple systems, multiple engagements. So. Interesting. And quite the elaborate control board here, and this looks like post-World War II switching. So, compared to what we have on ours in Massachusetts.
But again, developed from the World War II equipment, just improved and maybe modified in certain ways to make it work better.
Keep it simple. All right, we've stepped back now into After I See gyro room back here. It's similarly the same. There's a few distinct little things we'll point out, but it's about the same systems. John?
Okay, some of the equipment in here that is not a duplicate of what we see up in the forward internal communications is we have a duplicate after main gyro in case we lose the forward main gyro. And we have a very unique feature which is located right here. This is actually an emergency steering position in this ship, and it's one of 5 different positions where the ship can be steered from. And you'll notice that there's no steering wheel, as we usually see in U.S. Navy ships. This is actually a push-button steering system. Push this button for right rudder, you push this button for left rudder, and this type of system is exactly similar to the type of steering system that was used on German capital ships. If you've ever seen videos of the steering system in the Bismarck, it's the same type of system. This is actually just an emergency backup. The normal steering is by wheel.
Right, being close to the aft part of the ship, this is an all-out fail. If you lose so much catastrophic damage forward in connection and communication, this is like the backup to the backup to the backup. So, if all else fails, push the button.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. So, again, rotary switches, communications, and sound-powered phones as well. That is in here as well. And telephone exchange. I don't believe we have one back here. So, again, backup to backup to backup. It's small, effective, and it's a backup.
If you'd like to see what we just looked at, in many cases yourself, please come to both the Massachusetts and the Salem. It's actually easy and economical to do so because of the Kilroy Pass, which gives you admission to both ships for one price.
Thank you. Appreciate all the help. If you'd like to help out more, like, share, subscribe, and give us a call. Hope to hear from you soon. I'm Tom Lowney.
Dr. John Scholes.
And Paul Scalabroni.
We're here to make these ships better so you can see your history. Thanks again. Tune in. We'll see you there.